In our current global climate, we're facing challenges never before experienced by this generation. Oppositions where no one seems to have clear directions or answers to the risks facing us. Confrontations like racial and gender unrest, political gerrymandering, toxic leadership, economic crisis, global pandemic, health threats, pre-existing medical conditions, isolation, boredom, and loneliness are driving people to desperation. As a result, people are confused, afraid, anxious, and perplexed, and they need answers to some tough questions and even tougher situations. They are looking into different outlets for answers to gain assurance and consolation. Some have drawn closer to the embrace of family, while others look more towards their friendships, education, and even religion. What we need is a fresh voice of truth and clarity, and not a stale religious echo from the past. There's a re-emerging voice on the horizon that isn't afraid to stand alone and give spiritual and mentally sound direction to a world searching for answers. G. Alfred Palmer offers a voice of sound human development and empowerment to those willing to hear. There's a need for new ideas to old principles, a perspective from a timeless origin, but with current vision, a thought leader who understands what it means to stand alone and speak truth when some are hard of hearing. But if you've been waiting to hear a voice that opens the gates of freedom and breaks the shackles of confusion to allow you to step forward into the dawning of a new and exciting future, then it's time to bridge the gap with Dr. G. Alfred Palmer. He is a dynamic speaker, thought leader, and entrepreneur, equipped to elevate, expand, and extend the development, empowerment, and leadership of his audiences. He stands ready to speak at your next event. His delivery is guaranteed to refresh, entertain, and transform. G. Alfred Palmer bridges the gap from uncertainty to the purpose, to passion, and leadership. Book him today for your next event, and you won't be disappointed.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome once again to the Red Hot Mic. I am your host, Dr. G. Alfred Palmer, and to introduce my co-host that holds my hat, Mr. Hedley Lamar. Thank you, Hedley, for my hat. And it's time for us to get ready to do what we got to do. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. And so let's start it out like we always do, and we do something a little like this. Come on. Come on. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. Come on in this house. Come on in this house. This is how we do. This is how we do. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on in this house. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. It's the Red Hot Mic. I'm your host, G. Alfred Palmer. Come on in. It's that time. Let's do it. Come on. This is how we do. The Red Hot Mic. We got something to talk about tonight. Come on. Here's a toast to you and all that you are and all that you will be. Come on. Come on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're not done. You know how we like to do. You know how we like to do. It's the start of a new week. Let's get busy. Come on. Come on. today with some swag. Come on. Come on. Come on. That's how we do. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about tonight. Yes, I am. I am excited. We're going to talk about the stages of woman development. Oh man, somebody's going to be mad at me tonight. But that's all right. That's all right. You can be mad all you want. It's what it is. Come on. Let's get ready. Let's get ready. It's the Red Hot Mic. Which yours truly, G. Alfred Palmer. It's time for us to ruminate, elevate, and activate. Come on. Come on. It's time for us to do that. Come on. Come on. Come on. It's time to do that. In a snap, ruminate, elevate, and activate. The best you. The best you. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. I'm glad you're here. It's the Red Hot Mic. It's another opportunity for us to do some things and say some things. Somebody's not going to agree with it, but that's okay. I don't know anyone that you're going to agree with totally. I don't know anyone. And I don't know anyone that's going to totally agree with you. It's not possible. But that doesn't mean you need to be quiet. It doesn't mean that I need to be quiet. It means that we need to speak, especially if you have been given something to speak, not just to be speaking for the sake of it. Some people say that they look at me as entertainment and the things that I say as a joke. That's fine. I know many of people who have prolific and profound effects on a culture that people did the same thing to. But that's all right. That's okay. I'm not for everyone, but neither are you. But it's one of those things where we come together and we seek to better and uplift each other. We seek to elevate, ruminate, and to activate. That's what it's all about. And so if you're here to do one of those or any of those or all of those, I welcome you to the Red Hot Mic. I welcome you here tonight and want you to begin to understand that the feminine nature is so very critical into the success of what we do here in this realm. The feminine nature is the most important formation that is in this realm. That's how important the feminine nature is. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. I hope you're ready. Because we're just going to breeze through some of the things that's in my book, The Stages of Development. And we're just going to breeze through some of the things that we touch upon in the book. Because I want you to understand, especially for the fellas, to understand who she is, what she brings to the table, and what motivated and caused her developmentally to bring those things to the table. Sometimes we have a perspective that's a little bit warped. I talk about it in my book called The Misconception of Eve, where we talk about the misconceptions and the ideas that we've had of the feminine nature. And we're not going to touch on any of that, but that's for our other station. But we're going to talk about the stages of Eve, or the stages of womanhood or woman development, and the importance of it. Because in understanding that, we will learn to be able to get along a little bit better and understand where each is coming from. To you, once again, thank you. Pomegranate juice. Good antioxidant. Went to the doctors today, and there's some things I need to change. And I think there's something that we're going to need to talk about. I'm just going to say this. You know, you can't eat all the things that you used to eat. You can't eat the way that you used to eat. We have to change our diets. Come on. That's what I'm talking about. Something that hit it right there. Feel that trumpet. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Feel it. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. This is the red hot mic. It's the red hot mic. Uh-huh. Come on. It's the red hot mic. It's all right. It's tonight. Come on. It's the red hot mic. It's in the house. We're in the house. We're in the house. I'm grateful for you being here with me. Yeah. Feel that. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. We're getting ready to get busy. I want to talk about something that I think is very, very important. I know I get a lot of flack and feedback, often saying that I don't understand women, I don't like women, I don't this and that about women, which can be no further from the truth, because I understand the importance of women. And I understand also the lack of development that females have. Females need to hear the masculine voice. They won't like it, but they need to hear it. But a woman appreciates the masculine voice because she understands that's a man, not a male. Come on. Feel that trumpet. Come on. It's the red hot mic. We're getting ready to get busy now. You know, it's important that we understand the more we hear something, the more that it's rehearsed, the more it becomes a part of us. And you're going to hear me say some things over and over again because of that principle. That's a principle. That's a principle. Repetition is the seed of learning. So we need to repeat, continually repeat. Yes, we do. And it's not because anyone thinks you're not bright or intelligent. That's far from the reason. The reason is that we have to get past the point of listening to the point of hearing. Because in the point of hearing, there is understanding. All right. All right. All right. The stages of a woman's development. She's the most precious of all creations here in this realm. And so I'm really excited about bringing this particular broadcast. I want to also say that we are on several other broadcasts or other platforms as well tonight. We're broadcasting from StreamYard, and we are also broadcasting on YouTube and on several of my pages on Facebook Live. So we are on Facebook Live even as I speak, as well as the other platforms as well. I'm excited about being able to be here with you one more time. I want to talk about this particular topic, the stages of a woman's development, because we need to better understand her. We need to be able to understand the difference between her and the other developmental stages that are beneath her. And so we have to speak to those things And it's in speaking to those things you understand why I do what I do and speak the way that I speak. I have some lights that are in the way. Give me a chance to move them out the way. Let me turn them off. I'll be right back. Okay, that removes the green dot out of my face. I had a green dot. I'm looking in the monitor and I see a green dot. Um, so it's important, I think, that we come to a place of better understanding of the feminine nature. And I'm going to start off by saying this because of my background. I have a theological background, and some of that spills over because that's who I am as well. As there's a clinical side of me as well in the area of psychology, so that's going to spill over as well. You're going to get some of that too, and there's also a counseling side of me that you're going to get some of that too. So you're going to get a myriad of different sides of me. Um, I've been told that I'm the kind of person that easily car, um, car, car, I put things in boxes. Compartmentalizes. That's the word I'm looking for. Compartmentalizes things, and sometimes I do, and I think that's needful sometimes. And so I'm going to compartmentalize some things tonight, and bring some things from different perspectives, bringing some things from different areas, to help speak to the stages of women's development. Again, this is not. I'm just going to be taking a little tad from my book called The Misconception of Eve, because I think that dovetails into this a little bit. Actually, it could a lot, but it would take so much to go through both because there's two books. There's one book that's called The Misconception of Eve, and the other one is The Stages of Development, where we go through the stages of the development of humanity, both male and female. So tonight, what I'm going to be doing is just giving a glimpse, a snippet or a snapshot of the stages of development book that speaks to the nature of the feminine nature. Notice I say feminine nature. There's a reason to that. Feminine nature is very important in that it's different from gender, and I'll start there. And I've started there, and I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. Masculine and feminine started in the great beyond before time was, in that space that we call, whatever you call it, nirvana, or you may call it heaven, you may call it the great beyond, whatever you call it. But there, in that space, in that realm, was both masculine and feminine. And because of that, we've got to understand that masculine and feminine were not genderized. They were not genders. They were operative. They were functionalities. They were operations. Okay? The masculine pierced. The masculine not only pierced, but penetrated, inserted, and injected. The feminine received, incubated, nurtured, right? And cared for. And that's the whole idea of both of these coming together to make one. So, but here's the interesting thing. Because femininity had no legal way to enter into this particular realm, because it neither penetrated, inserted, it neither injected nor penetrated. So it needed it to for it to try to come into this realm on its own would have been illegal. So it needed to be covered by masculinity, because masculinity had the legal right to penetrate, to pierce, to insert, and to inject. And so when that came into this realm, when masculinity came into this realm, masculinity had femininity inside of it. When it got here, it was said by the creator that it's not good for masculinity to be all one. All one. I will make a helpmeet. So that's what happened. He was put to sleep, and there was a separation from that which is masculine from that which is feminine. And so now tonight we want to talk about the feminine, because it's important that we do that. Now, we've got to understand that when she came into this realm, she was not created yet. She was not created. There was only one creation, and that was masculine. And that's important to understand that, but we'll talk about that later. But the creation, I'm sorry, there is the creation of masculine and feminine, but I'm talking about in the sense of masculine and feminine. I'm talking about feminine coming in and on its own accord entering to this realm. It could not do that. It won't do that. It's impossible for it to do that. But that masculine and feminine does exist or has existed in the realm before us. And now that it has come into this realm, and when she came into this realm, she brought femininity. She brought in her CPU just what I just mentioned to you: the ability to nurture, to carry, to receive, and to incubate. Those are processes that she will always be able to do in the CPU. If we were to look at her as a computer, she will bring that into this realm, that ability in the CPU. But she needs software to be uploaded, and that software is the teachings, the discipline, right? The understanding, and the attributes of femininity, and that's supposed to come from the mother. And so, what we are experiencing in this day and hour is not only the inability or the proper teaching for femininity for our women or young ladies or our girls. And it's important to say that it's flip side for that. It's not being done for the boys either. Now, it's important that I mention that when she comes into this realm, she comes in as a girl. She does not come in as a female. A lot of folks are having problems with the idea of that ladies, you were born a girl, not a female. When you came into the world and they put you in that crib, in the nursery, above your crib, it said not female, it said girl. It said boy or girl, whatever it was. It said boy, girl. But in your case, it said girl. Why? Because what I said earlier, your CPU that backs you up says that you're feminine, you have feminine design and qualities, but yet your CPU is blank. You have come here with a blank slate, as the boys do too. You come in with a blank slate, and that blank slate needs to be uploaded with the proper information, the proper characteristics, the proper development, in order for you to fulfill the very reason that you were sent. And the reason you were sent, and the best way to fulfill that is to fulfill it in the body or design in which you were given when you came here, because that same design authored or originated from where you came and sent you here. You're not an accident, ladies. You don't belong to your own. The universe sent you for a reason. And the reason the universe sent you was not to make money, but affect a change in your community, culture, and clan. How do you do that? Purpose. We have to find purpose. We have another channel that we call the theory of purposeology. Purposeology is the scientific and spiritual methodology of finding purpose. And in order to do that, we use scientific and spiritual methods for you to find purpose. But that's on our other station. You need to tune into it sometimes. Now, when we start talking about her coming into this realm, and she comes in as a girl, that's the first stage that she comes in as. She comes in as a girl. And it's important that we understand that all human development, that our development depends on our education, exposure, and the uploads. It depends on the uploads that our parents give us or don't give us that causes us to have problems. See, if a parent, and what we have a tendency to do, children, or I should say infants, in those first couple of years have a tendency to they're observational learners. And because they're observational learners, they look and they look and learn by what they see, by what they observe. That's their educational system because they can't talk. So what they do is their eyes and ears become their means of education. And the eyes basically begins to show them that they have certain equipment, a certain design. And if she is feminine, then she's going to have a certain design that was dictated by the great beyond. That feminine qualities that had no gender took on a gender because everything that enters into this realm must have a body. So she came here with the body, and now she sees the design that's connected with her feminine nature that was originally given to her to come here with, so that she can best fulfill the very purpose that she's been sent to fulfill. So as she begins to observe, that her mother, has the same equipment that she has. They have the same kinds of equipment. And so because they have the same kinds of equipment, she begins to focus more on her mother because there is more there of what she's like. And because she's like that, she will be drawn to that because they are more like. So it's important that the mother uploads the proper type of information. But what we're having now is mothers uploading information, uploading whatever you want to call it, ideology, uploading things that are causing her problems because they go diametrically opposed to her design. That feminine design. See, because she came from femininity and now she's taking on a body that represents and is designed to fulfill and depict that femininity. But she's being uploaded with contradictory information that is causing problems because she's being told that she can inject. She's being told that she can pierce. She's being told that she can penetrate. She's being told, and so she's being told masculine ideas, masculine ideologies that don't match her design. Now, I'm not trying to put anybody down. I want you to hear me. Hear me. And it's because of that we are having problems. It's not the child's problem. It's not the child's fault. It's the parents' fault for not adequately and appropriately and properly uploading the proper information, the proper ideology. No, girls don't do that. Girls do this. No, girls don't wear that. Girls wear this. Why? Why, mommy? Why? Because, and mommy has to teach. Mommy has to disciple and discipline her on what is and isn't appropriate for her upload and for her CPU so that she can optimally perform in this realm. Now, so let's talk about stages of development. Let's look at the first stage. The first stage is basically infancy, and she comes in as an infant. And basically, infancy is from 0 to 1. That's infancy. And at that time, she is very, as all infants are, selfish. She's selfish. And she's supposed to be selfish because she has to learn self-awareness. She has to learn how she fits in her environment. She has to become adapted to her environment and aware of environment. She has to learn autonomy, that she is an individual. She's separate from mommy. She's separate from her environment. She's separate from everyone. She is an individual. She has autonomy. She has the ability to do things. And so she begins to do things to gain attention, to get what she wants. So she cries, right? She cries, right? And there's certain cries that are to depict certain desires that she has, whether she needs to be changed, whether she needs to be fed, right? Right? Whether she wants to be picked up, whether she's sleepy. All these things are ways of her learning and becoming aware, self-aware of herself, her environment, and her autonomy. She becomes aware of those around her and those that she's dependent upon, who do things for her, right? So she learns dependency. She learns what that means. She doesn't know the word, but she understands that she needs, and her needs need to be met by someone. That's important for us to understand. That is a feminine idea. She knows that she needs assistance. She needs help. And it's not a bad thing for her to understand and to need help. But what we want to do is to make it something bad, make it something weak. And it's not weak, it's orderly. It's an orderly operation and function of femininity. Okay? So that needs to be uploaded in her. Okay? Now, key influencers during this phase is her parents, right? We know that. Mom especially is important. Dad too, but more or less mom. Mom is the most important. Why? Because she recognized moms because they've been connected for 9 months, all things being equal. And so she recognizes mother's voice, right? She recognizes that voice because mother talked to her while she was pregnant with her, didn't she? Didn't you, Mom? Didn't you talk to her? Didn't you rub the stomach, caress her, nurture her? Didn't you, while you were incubating her? Didn't you talk to her? Didn't you nurture her? Yeah, you did. Didn't you caress her? Yes, you did. You were doing and fulfilling those same feminine qualities that she needs to be uploaded with. You need to pass that to her. She needs those in order to fulfill her femininity in this sphere called Earth. So she has her parents become very key influencers, right? Her siblings, food. Let's talk about food. Food is very important for her in this phase. Not only that, but going to the bathroom is very important. Believe it or not, some of you understand why it is important for us to understand that going to the bathroom becomes a means of communication and of development. It's not just a physiological process. It is also a psychological, cognitive, and mental processes that are attached with that help us to develop and to grow, and to help her to get in contact with how she functions and operates. Okay? She learns how to what it means to operate and what certain functions do and don't do. Okay? So not only that, but she begins to identify people around her, whether those be siblings. Okay? And here's what we've got to understand about the feminine nature. Very observant. Very, very observant. More observant than the masculine. She takes in much more than you think she takes in. And she's wired that way. She's wired to take in all that data. Even the data. That's why we have so much time. So often you find that women continue to ask questions. And it seems like they ask questions and never come to a place of making a decision or a choice because there's always more questions. That's how she's built. But what she needs is a man to say, ho. Okay, we've got to make a decision. But that's something we'll talk about down the road. But it becomes important that she takes in a lot. She takes in an inordinate amount of information. And it's imperative that she does that. It's imperative that she is able and encouraged to take in things. But she must take in the appropriate things and put them in their proper perspective. That's what motherhood does. And fatherhood shows and demonstrates what is not feminine and what is masculine. This is not what girls do. This is what boys do, baby. And so what we do is we teach. Parents are needful to upload the software, the proper software. And what's happening is in some of our homes, the masculine has not been present. And because the masculine hasn't been present, the feminine had to take on both masculine and feminine. And it's not possible for you to do both effectively because you're not designed for that. You may do your best. It's no doubt you're going to do your best because you love your children. But the truth of the matter is you're not designed to do the things that are unlike your design. You can't. Ladies, you can't. And it's important for you to understand that. And to understand that that's why the father is so important. Because he does bring something that is needful for the child. He does bring a lot that is needful for your child. The things that you cannot do, that you cannot bring, is critically important that he be a part of it. Okay, so as she continues to grow, this is the first 4 years, from birth to the first 4 years, really. And so she's developing, and as she's developing, she's taking in all this information. She's developing. She's assimilating. She's assimilating to her environment. She's assimilating to her siblings and her parents and everything that's around her. And so she begins to continue to grow. And so at the age of somewhere around 5, maybe a little younger, before 5 years old, she begins to become very imaginative because there's so much in her. It's wonderful. She's wonderful. She's so imaginative that she begins to have imaginary friends, or she has imaginary tea parties, or she does things and she has dolls and she imagines and she plays and she does. But all the while, what she's doing is she's developing paradigms. She's developing how she sees the world. She's developing how she fits in this world and how the world sees her. And so she's beginning to develop an external paradigm about the world, about what she's in and what's in her. And so what she does is a key characteristics is that she fantasizes. Not only does she fantasize, but there is a need for her to understand. And it's a need for her to be accepted. It's a need for her to be liked. And so she goes to school and she makes friends. And she talks about little Becky who don't like her. For whatever reason, she doesn't like her. And she tries, and her and Jennifer they gang up on her and they don't speak to her. And they don't see, here's the activation of her paradigm of the world. Oh, that's good stuff. And so as she continues to develop, she begins to develop things like having a desire for a family. She desires to see what her ideal family would look like. So she plays with her dolls, and she has baby Junior and her husband and her and the dog and the house that you got her. And she plays house, and all these things are developing paradigms. She's developing compartments of thinking, ideas and desires of thinking. And so it becomes important. As she continues to grow, she begins to think about playing doctor. and she's the doctor, and she takes the stethoscope, and she does a physical, and so she begins to think about what she wants to be as a desired profession. She starts to think about weddings and dress up, right? She begins to think about a husband and the expectation she has of a husband. He needs to be this and that, and this is happening very young, very young. But it may not be very detailed, but there are more ideas than conceptualized concepts for her. They're just ideas, okay? So this age that she's in between 5 and 11, this is that time period that we're talking about that's basically girlhood. That's what first is childhood, now it's girlhood. 5 to 11, she's in this phase that I'm talking about, and the people that influence her the most, it kind of switches or even comes more. Still, the parents are the most influential, but the friends start vying for equal or even more consideration. So friends become important for her in this time period. And not only that, the reason, where does she meet the friends? At school, right? So school becomes important to her. And not only that, but if you'll notice her, she'll excel at school, or she'll operate on a level of those that she wants to be friends with. So if the friends are operating at a higher level of academia, she will do it too, because she has the ability. She has the ability to do whatever she wants to do. Okay? And so school becomes important. And then activities, her activities that she chooses. It's important that you allow her to choose her activities, because her activities are conducive to her personality. And you'll learn more about her personality by the things that she chooses to do. And the things that she not only chooses to do, but the things that she excels in. So it's important that we understand this about our girls. So we're talking about childhood, right? We're actually talking about infancy, childhood, and now we're talking about girlhood. Now the thing about girlhood that's very, very important is that it is a very primal kind of educational perspective for her. And as parents, it's really for us to observe some of the things, and it really becomes important that we begin to teach in that area. Watch how she moves and moves about. From 5 to 11 is important, because the first 5 years develop her cognitively, emotionally, right? And so now it's in this particular ages 5 through 11, it becomes more behavioral kinds of things that as parents we begin to help her to see some things and help her to compartmentalize things in an acceptable and a social and an appropriate manner for her feminine nature. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, I want to make sure I don't. Okay. I don't want to leave. I do notes because I don't want to. There's so much that I want to say, and I can't say it all, but I want to just touch on some certain things. Now, the next phase. One of the things that we've got to understand is that from birth to approximately this particular stage, from birth to about 11 years old, males and female, or excuse me, boys and girls pretty much develop on an equal keel. Girls a little bit more developmentally ahead, but there's not a real drastic difference, but there is a slight difference. Now, here's where the big difference takes place. The big difference takes place when she leaves girlhood and goes into femalehood. Now, it's important that we understand that maturity for females surpass that of males from this point on for the rest of their lives. And that is important because and we can see it very, very observationally, in that you see that girls mature, have babies, develop, and age quicker than boys. Boys age slower, develop slower, and they are able to develop over a longer period of time, and eventually are able to have and still sire kids, have kids at a later age than the girl, because the girl gets older quicker. That's the bottom line. You age quicker than boys, and that process goes on through life. Now, when we talk about this femalehood, it goes from ages 12 to about approximately 19 years old. And in this phase, she is learning about life and how to move within the realm of life, and some other things she finds out about life that really make her um, very tentative about some things. Let's talk about it. Now, first of all, we've got to understand that females at this age in earlier culture or dynamics, let's say historically in this country, girls or females started marrying at around this age, 12, 13, 14. And then today we see that as child abuse, or we see that as illegal in most places. And because it's illegal, it is illegal. But in most, in historically, that wasn't so in our country. At back in in tribal times, in the hunter and gatherer times, in the productive times of this country, where things were done from a mechanical perspective. Okay, so what we've got to understand is that these girls were taught, and it's a paradigm, it's a way of thinking, and historically, this stage is where many females should be preparing for marriage. But nowadays, that is not the case because of what's going on in our community, culture, and clan. Because at this stage, much of the upload that they are getting is basically this: survival. What they get from mom is survival of the fittest, survival of self, survival of species, survival. And so you don't depend on anyone. You survive, and you become, and you do for yourself. And as a result of that, that independence that she has been nurtured into her. What we have is what we call an independent spirit, or an independent mindset. She's not looking to marry, whereas the females in earlier historical periods did. Now the females don't, and they're not looking to get married because they think they don't need a man. But you need a man, and a man needs a woman. You need each other, but you need each other differently. It's the adage that I always say: equal but not the same. Equal but not the same. Now, because I want to go back and say something that, I want to address something that I think is becoming a big issue, and I want to say some things about it. And that's the idea of the concept hypergamy or hypergamy, however you want to talk about it. But it's basically how women look to one up, or to move up the chain. They don't want to move down. They don't want to move lateral. They want someone that's going to be above wherever they are. Or if they have someone in their life and he was a husband, he were to die, she would want someone that is not that same level. She wants someone that is above, in a more higher social economic, social strata or class. She wants that because that's the way she has always been. Now listen, in back in historical periods, when we talk about tribal and we talk about hunter and gatherer, a lot of the times the tribes were warring. And what would happen is when an invading tribe conquered another tribe, they would kill the men, right? Kill the boys, keep the women and keep the daughters and keep the stock, right? They would keep the animals. And so what would happen is the girls would learn hypergamy or hypergamy through these changing of husbands or however whatever you want to call it. But they would learn that it's important, and then the idea is that you have to leave that which is behind and move forward. So what you've got to understand, fellas, is that if you were to pass, her normal thing is going to do the normal thing that she's going to do is to look for someone else very soon. Most of the time, she would move quicker to another relationship than you will, because men are very territorial. And so they're not going to move on as easily as a female will. So when you broke up with her, believe me, guys, she's moved on because of hypergamy in her DNA calls for her to be able to do that. So no, she's not thinking about you. That old one's not thinking about you. Move on. Move on, guy, fella, move on. But it's important that we understand that hypergamy or hypergamy plays an important role in her survival. She needed to be able to survive. And emotionally, cognitively, mentally, psychologically, and philosophically, this idea of hypergamy allowed her to be able to move on without losing her mind. She needs to be able to do that. Okay, so in this age of 12 to 19, she learns some very, very important things. She learns about the world around her. She learns that it's not safe. It's not safe. It's not safe. You can't depend on folks. It's fearful. It's intimidating. She learns about her inadequacies and so how she may not be as strong, and she may not be as fast. She may not be as this or that, and where she doesn't measure up. And so those things become a part of the things that she fears. Okay, and so this whole thing of survival is also about safety. It's also about her being safe. It becomes important to her that survival and safety are at the apex of her Johari's or of her hierarchy of needs. And so it's important for her in her hierarchy of needs that she be safe, that she survives. She needs to be able to do those things. Now, I know that we talk about Maslow hierarchy needs, and then we say that the base is survival. But no, it's more than that. It's more important than just being. No, it permeates the feminine mentality and nature throughout life. Throughout life, survival is important to her because the world's not safe. They want to take advantage of her because she lacks this, that, and this and that. Okay, so she begins to become fearful. And so remember I talked about her knowing that she has a need for protection and those kinds of things. And so she looks for those things. She looks for safety in those areas where she may not have strength. And so she looks for those areas in how she can bring those into her world. And she does that through relationships with those of the opposite sex. And in this day and age, they're doing it with each other's in the same sex as well. Now, when we start talking about key influencers at this point, it becomes parents are almost out of the picture, and rightfully so, because by this time they should have the necessary tools to make the necessary choices for themselves. So now what becomes more influential is culture. What's going on around them? What is the it thing now? What makes you the it girl? What makes you the one that everybody looks to? Because you're in tune with what the culture is doing, and you help mold and shape the culture and move the culture. Okay, and then also an influencer, her friends, those that are close to her. Those that are close to her are very important in how she sees the world. You want to know how she sees the world? Look at her friends. Look at her friends. Who does she hang out with? Who does she spend her time with? What are they like? Physically, mentally, cognitively, what are they like? Because birds of a feather flock together. Even though they may not all those birds may not look the same, there's something about those birds that cause them birds to be together. You ever understand why when you see a group of females, they all look similar, but one may not? One will look extremely different than the rest. It says something about the one, how she sees herself. How she sees herself. Okay. Also, in this day and age, another thing that becomes very, very important as an influencer is social media. And I would dare say that social media and culture are pretty much equal and the same, actually, because culture is being driven through social media now. I mean, you have the culture pretty much being dictated to you 24/7. And then there's certain people that are able to dictate the culture, what they wear, how they talk, what they sing, right? What they look like. They dictate the culture. And as a result of that, we follow it. And then we look to people, and you wonder why everybody looks alike. All the singers sing alike. Everybody dresses alike. And that's all because the influencers are influencing the influencers who are influencing the influencers. Okay. So it becomes very, very important that we understand that in this stage, that what drives her is safety and security. Safety and security are something is something that's going to be with her for the rest of her days. The rest of her days. But her 20s and 30s are very, very safety and survival oriented. Okay. Now, we've talked about femalehood. Now, femalehood actually has 3 steps, and it goes in my book. And I'm not going to get into them tonight. But womanhood, I'm going to real briefly say some things about it because it has 3 stages within it. And it's important to understand that it's the early, middle, and late. Now, the early womanhood is from 20 to 30. Now, 20 to 30, safety, survival, and also that's important. It should be important, but but it's not in this stage. Is marriage. Marriage, but it's changing now because what we have now is hot girl summer. We have women or females who don't think that they need a man. Okay. Now, when we get to womanhood is different than femalehood. Womanhood does not think that way. I need to bring that point home. Women don't think about they don't need a man. Women don't. Females do, but women don't. Women are more developed cognitively, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, philosophically. They are developed. They understand life. They understand their needs. They understand what and how to go about getting them. She's very intelligent. And she knows how to use her feminine wiles. Her feminine wiles are not a bad thing. They're not a bad thing at all. But we've made it a bad thing. We've made it a bad thing. We feminine wiles are supposed to be used in a way that doesn't offend a man, but allows a woman to survive and to have safety. Because one of the biggest things about male is his ego. We'll talk about that when we talk about males. But a woman understands the importance of a man's ego and the role it plays in him being the man he needs to be. A female will try to emasculate a man's ego, where a woman understands the need to feed that ego and to shape that ego in order for him to make it out there in the world. She understands that. And so she uses her feminine wiles to her advantage, but not to the detriment of the man. She is something else. Woman is something else. And when you meet one, you know it. And when you don't, you know that too. You know the difference between a female and a woman. Men, don't you? Don't you? You know the difference between a female and a woman. A woman is totally different than a female. A female does things that we see on social media, that dresses scantily, that her presentation is not feminine. And I don't need to go on with that. But a woman, when you see a woman, first thing you say is, "Whew, man, that's a woman," right? And you understand that, and you know that. But let's move on, since we're talking about womanhood, and we're talking about it in the confines that she is developed, okay, as much as possible. Okay, so in the early womanhood between 20 and 30 is safety and survival. In middle womanhood between ages 31 and 40 is independence. In this day and age, it's independence. I'm going to say that that's not the way it should be. I say that here should be where family should be, not independence. Family should be here. Family forming, developing a family should be at this point, not independence. But that's what we're seeing in this day and age, independence. This is the idea of, I don't need a man. I've gone to school and I've got a PhD. I've got a master's degree. I've incurred all this educational debt. I've got all this consumer debt. And so when she's indebted up to her eyeballs, but yet at the same token, she's independent. She's able to navigate and do whatever she wants to do without anybody's help. That independence drives her to not even want a man for childbearing reasons. So what she'll do is she'll freeze her eggs, and eventually, when she thinks that a guy is acceptable, she'll unfreeze the eggs and then go about having children. But the thing is, that never happens. Most of the time, it doesn't happen. She doesn't unfreeze the eggs. Okay, so 31 to 40, she's independent. She's independent. And that independence leaves her out there. Listen, we talked about it already. The whole idea of safety and survival is always an issue for her. And I don't care how independent she is, she's still afraid. She's not going to tell you that. She still doesn't feel safe. I don't care how big she is. I don't care. I don't care how many guns she has. She's still afraid because she needs protection. She needs it. Not wants it, needs it. Okay. She's designed that way. Whether she's going to admit it or not, She needs it, gentlemen. Okay, so that's early, middle stage womanhood. Now, late stage womanhood goes from 41 to 64. 41 to 64, and in that time frame, the thing that becomes more important in during this time is her health. Her health. She's looking at her health and how she can best mediate or uh, she can deal with some of the medical problems that are going to come about from life, especially being independent, being survival. That worry of survival will bring upon psychosomatic kinds of things that it will eventually bring about full-blown conditions. So she becomes very conscious of her health, very conscious of her health. For the first time in her life, she considers going to the gym and becoming more fit and looking at her diet more closely and changing her diet as well. She's more apt to change her diet well before a man will. Well before a man will. And many males don't change their diet at all. It'll kill them. But the bottom line is, the first thing that becomes of key importance is her health. Second, her retirement. Her retirement, because retirement speaks to survival and safety again, as does health. Now, for her, some of the same things become important as we talked about before. The biggest thing for her in this, as far as a key influencer, is her kids. Now, here's what's important. So many females, women, make well, not women, females. What females will do, they'll make their children their key, their main influence. They do not make any choices without it how it's going to affect her kids. And I get that. I really do. I get that. But you got to understand something. Kids grow and go. And when they grow and go, they're not going to be as fastidious over what's going on with you as they are with themselves, because they've got to live their lives. And so what you've got to learn how to do is to balance and do things that are going to allow you to carry on once they leave, because they are leaving. They supposed to leave. They supposed to leave. I was told it's time for me to go when I went to college. It was time for me to go. And I never went back. But the bottom line is, her kids are important. Her kids are very, very important. Her education is important. Her employment is important to her. Materialism, retirement becomes important to her. Religion becomes important to her. Right? Notice I didn't say relationship. But for women it is. For women, relationship is the most important thing, because she understands the need of a man. Okay, she understands the need of a man. A woman understands that. Females don't. Females don't. Okay, so what we've talked about womanhood from ages 20 to 64. 64. Okay, and then after that is what we call seniorhood. Seniorhood is basically from 61 to 85. And I'm not going to get all into it, but there's 3 stages there, and that's 65 to 74. And the key focus is retirement. Middle is 75 to 84, which is health and routine. They develop their own routines. That these routines are so very ingrained. Well, I'm not going to get into it. And excuse me. Then the late stages, or the late stage of the seniorhood is 85 to 90, and then that one is legacy. What becomes important to her is her grandchildren, her great grands, her legacy. Okay, so that's how long are we going? Oh, that's what I'm gonna. That's as far as I'm going to go with this. But I'm gonna come back and I'm going to talk about the stages of of male development as well, because I think it's important that we get a perspective of both sides. Now, why did I do this? Well, it gives us an idea of where people are. Okay, a lot of times what happens is we get into relationships with people who we think are at certain stages, and they're not. They're not. And as a result of that, we get into a relationship before understanding that this person has not developed in areas that need to be developed in order for this relationship to be profitable. So what needs to happen is you need to make a choice. Is this a right relationship for you or not? And if it's not, then it's imperative that you begin to look toward other spaces to be in to to forge a relationship. Or you may want to stay with that person and help them to develop. And that's what happens a lot, because a lot of times women think that they can change you. And what happens is they get frustrated because they can't. The bottom line is you've got to find someone that you accept and accepts you the way they are, without any changing. And a lot of the changing that women do goes back to where we talked about her being a girl and she fantasizing and looking for this fantasy world where she makes up how a husband's supposed to be, the kids, the house, the cars, and all. And well, not so much cars, but mainly kids and husband in the house. And so that becomes ingrained, and it comes and follows her. And when she eventually gets to womanhood and looks to have a relationship, she tries to bring that about. And when it doesn't come about, that can cause problems for her. That can cause some cognitive problems, emotional problems, and those problems will spill over into the relationship. Okay, so it's important that I said this in one of my posts today. It's important that you sit down and have some really deep conversation with people that you're considering sharing your life with. Conversation and observation. Like you were doing when you were learning from your parent when you were still a toddler. You weren't even able to talk, but you learn with your ears and your eyes and your mouth. You can learn with your mouth at tasting how they cook. What a lack of cooking. But anyway, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so it becomes important and imperative that we have to understand the stages of woman development. Because if you're going to pick the right kind of woman, understand what those stages look like and what's encompassed in. Now, I just did a broad brush of it, but the book Stages of Development go more in depth. And so, if you want to get that book, you can. There'll be a link in the description, that you can get the book, or you can go to our website, gapalmer.com, and order the book as well. That's it. That's all for this session. I hope you got something out of it. I hope something that was said will trigger something that you say that, you know what, I need to do better in this area or in that. And to do that, I need to develop and see it that person is developing. Well, that's it. It's time. It's time. It's time. It's time. It's time to say goodnight. Time to say goodnight. Thank you for spending time with me on the Red Hot Mic. It's hot in here. Come on. Come on. Uh, 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 uh. Come on. Come on. It's time to work. Ruminate. Elevate. Activate. This is Dr. G. Alfred Palmer saying peace, and I'm out.